If you are an American who has spent many years studying aviation and you graduate from school and you're an air traffic controller based on skill and merit, and then you apply for a job and you're forced to fill out a biographical questionnaire asking you the color of your skin and asking you where you're from in details that aren't relevant at all to the job description, I think that deteriorates the morale of people in this industry. And if you talk to people in this industry, they'll tell you that. In fact, many of them filed a lawsuit against the FAA a couple of years ago under Joe Biden's administration because they were denied positions because of this DEI hiring practice that was putting identity politics over merit and skills. That's unacceptable. And I think just to put a fine point on this, because this is the third or fourth question I've answered on this subject, when you are flying on an airplane with your loved ones, which every one of us in this room has, do you pray that your plane lands safely and gets you to your destination, or do you pray that the pilot has a certain skin color? I think we all know the answer to that question, and as President Trump said yesterday, it's common sense.
Beautiful day here in Florida. It's about 80 degrees, man. And it's going to be that way for the next 2 days. Hopefully we're going to get some nice thunderstorms tonight. I love a good thunderstorm. Yeah, isn't that beautiful? Woohoo! Watching the world burn, watching the world burn, January 31st, 2025. Let's get into it. So the biggest story, and I reported on it in my last video, and I just said briefly there's been a crash over the Potomac, and I left it at that because I told you there'd be a lot more information that would come out, and maybe we might just do a quick follow-up. I'm sure that, every radio station, Sean Hannity and all the talking heads, they're spending, half hour, 45 minutes talking about it. You'll only get 2 minutes from me, and we're gonna hit the highlights as I see it. The first thing that was interesting was supposedly it's been reported that there was only one air traffic controller that was controlling that entire scene. So we could see where the Biden administration and probably Obama back in the day had cut the air traffic controllers back to where there's like no, one person. Okay, let me give you just a quick example, because you always got to have redundancy. So when I worked for JP Morgan Chase, I was building a data center because they lost their data center in the World Trade Center, and we were building it in Michigan. And anyway, so the reason, we were building that was because of redundancy. The big banks like JP Morgan, they have 3 data centers. So if, let's say, a natural disaster or a terrorist, by the way, there's no guards at these data centers. So if a terrorist group wants to go in, at least there wasn't when I was working there, they say, well, we'll depend on the local sheriff to come and take care of things. Well, that'd be way too late if you got a hit team going into these data centers, and they're worth billions and billions of dollars. So just saying. But anyway, so if one data center goes down, you still got 2 more. And all those data centers are connected together, so you've got 3 layers of redundancy. Now, some big corporations only have 2, and sometimes not even that. It's amazing. They actually put their lifeline on the line, like Lear Corporation, for example. We had 2 data centers, but then they thought it was too expensive to maintain that, and they went down to 1. Well, if you lose that 1 data center, and that's a multi-billion-dollar company, or it was, the whole company would be gone. They'd have to go bankrupt. That's how important the redundancy is. But anyway, my point being is that there should have been at least 2 controllers in there, and everybody says probably 3. So that was your first red flag. The next thing that was interesting, and if I find the video, I'll show it to you. It was that the helicopter...
The American Airlines plane can be seen flying towards the airport before the two collide, causing a mid-air explosion and fall into the river. In a second video, you can see the Army helicopter and American Airlines plane travel toward each other. After the collision and subsequent explosion, the airliner can be seen spinning into the water, and the Black Hawk is also seen falling into the water.
I mean, it was a long video. I mean, this went on for like about, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 seconds, you know, or a full minute. And it just kept going right towards the plane. And, you know, I mean, you can see, I mean, if anybody was looking out the front of that helicopter, they should have seen that plane and had plenty of time to move off. And in fact, the tower warned them, do you have eyes on? And the speculation was he was looking at a different plane. I don't see how that's possible, because it just goes on a beeline right towards the plane, and then he hit it. So it could have been intentional. We don't know. So that was the next, you know, unintentional terrorist act. So that was the next thing. But if there were 3 people in that helicopter, I don't think all 3 of them would want to commit suicide. Now, maybe 2 of them, yeah, I don't know about you, if you've ever been up, you know, the 2 that didn't want to commit suicide might have been in the back of the helicopter, chilling out, eating some rations, maybe drinking some water, chewing the fat. And they didn't know that the pilot was, you know, heading, so it could have been a one-man operation. That's what I'm saying, even though there were 3 people in the helicopter. So that's, that was the next thing. And this is something that people aren't pointing out. Okay, and this gets back to my body, my choice. Ask a Democrat that. Somebody ask a damn Democrat a question and get back to me. Nobody gets back to me. I say, hey, I asked a Democrat a question, and this is what they had to say. So ask a Democrat, what about my body, my choice? Why were you for the COVID mandate? Huh? You want to stick a freaking experimental vaccine in everybody and make them lose their job if they don't? Well, that's what happened. Okay, we're seeing the repercussions of all of this, because Trump just reinstated all of the military personnel that refused to get the jab. And I'm very proud of him for doing that, with back pay. So thank God, Donald Trump, we got the Democrats out, so that helped the military. Because I'm going to tell you what, anybody that didn't get the jab in the military, these are the people you want. They're independent thinkers, they think for themselves, and that's what you need on a battlefield. So we got a lot of good people coming back in the military thanks to Donald Trump and the Democrats. So that's, but anyway, nobody's pointing out that the jab, there was a lot of air traffic controllers that refused to get the jab, and they got fired. So that diminished the air traffic controllers quite a bit. I mean, what Trump needs to do now is say, okay, let's bring back the air traffic controllers. I mean, they get paid a lot of money, maybe with half back pay or something. And say, you know, if you refuse to get the jab and you lost your job, let's bring back the air traffic controllers. Nobody's pointing that out, that it was the jab mandate that we lost a lot of our air traffic controllers. Okay, so that was the next thing. I guess that's all 3. You know, the long time with the helicopter, the tower, and then of course that. And that's all I'll say about the helicopter crash. I'm sure there'll be an investigation, but those are the 3 things that I looked at. The next thing was I really want to get on to Trump's agenda, and we are going to talk about that a little bit. The first thing is tomorrow, a lot of people didn't know, we're going to start with a 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada. Now, there's been some scuttlebutt that Trump is going to exclude energy from Canada from the tariff. I don't know that for sure, but I read a post that said that was being considered, or it might be done. So that was the first thing. And then, of course, if you didn't know, Trump threatened the BRICS countries with a 100% tariff. Well, there's a problem with that. I mean, it's good because I don't think a lot of Americans even know that BRICS even exists or what it is. It's it's an effort to replace the dollar. And once the dollar is replaced, we are all screwed here in the United States unless you've got gold and silver. Speaking of gold, highest price ever, $2,800 an ounce. Did you ever think you would see that? I remember when I was a kid, for $300 you could buy an ounce of gold. And $2,800 an ounce. And silver. I mean, it's, like I said, silver's been bouncing between 32, well, like at one point I think it got up to near 33 and 29. And it's been staying right there. And that's called a price threshold. It's not going to go lower than 29 or above 33 for a while. But if we break that $33 threshold, silver could be on the run. And see, what I'm seeing, and I'm just pointing this out to you, is what the historical ratio between gold and silver was 15 to 1 up to about 40 to 1. That means that, for 15 ounces of silver, you could get an ounce of gold. Or for 40 ounces of silver, you could get an ounce of gold. I don't know what that ratio works out to be. Maybe I'll put it I'll work it on and put it up in the video. But it's getting damn crazy. I mean, when you've got this big a ratio, I mean, everybody says buy gold. I wouldn't touch gold right now with a 10-foot pole. I'd be buying all the silver that I can, because if silver shoots up to 50 or 60, that's when I would start trading it in, or maybe 100, who knows? That's when I would start trading in my silver to get gold, or just trade it in for cash, because I've got some debts I want to pay off. I just cash it in and go ahead and take that fiat money, or if you call it money, currency, fiat currency, called the US dollar, and use that just to get the debts out of the way, especially with my HOA raising my damn fees all the damn time. So that was the next story I wanted to get into, was the tariffs. Oh yeah, so we get back to the BRICS. BRICS don't care. That was like when Trump said he was going to tariff and sanction Russia. You can't tariff and sanction Russia any more than they've already been tariffed and sanctioned. Biden made sure of that going out the door. He added even more tariffs and sanctions to Russia. So there's, so that was a useless gesture. And to do the same with the BRICS nations, it's just going to make them move that much faster to get away from the dollar. They're not going to care. China doesn't care if you tariff them. By the way, 10% tariff on China. I saw that. Forgot about that. Which they're not going to care about. They couldn't give a shit. They got their trade with Iran and Russia, and the whole rest of the world is leaving the West behind for sure. But yeah, Trump, you can threaten all you want, but they're just going to laugh at you. Even Saudi Arabia, part of BRICS, right? So once that petrodollar's gone, we are in a world of hurt. No doubt about it. So I guess the story, I wanted to get away from it for this video, was once again, you get back to the hearings before Congress. And I make fun of Democrats all the time, especially, the jab, my body, my choice. I was making fun of Democrats there. It's so easy to do. I mean, I made fun of Elizabeth Warren in the last video, but I mean, they had just embarrassed the hell out of themselves. And we're just going to get a couple of videos. So this was, and I did want to focus on Kennedy because I did 2 videos on him. But this clip of him embarrassing Bernie Sanders was too much to not put in the video. It was one of my favorite moments, man. I mean, there's a lot of favorite moments there. Because I got to tell you, it's Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., and Kash Patel. There's a reason that I'm dumber than a bag of stones. I mean, because I watch them and I go like, damn, they are so freaking smart, so intelligent, so politically just astute. I mean, if it was me getting grilled, I would have fallen into all of those traps, those logical traps the Democrats were trying to trap them in. And they just smoothed right through them. And I'm thinking, because I was just in admiration. I'm like, man, I wish I could be that smart. I'd be rich now. Although none of them are super rich. Isn't that insane? Even though they're smart, they're some of the smartest people on the planet. But anyway, let's get that clip of RFK embarrassing Bernie Sanders.
I'm going to make America healthier than other countries in the world right now.
Will you guarantee do what every other major country does? That's a simple question.
And by the way, Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, no,
protecting their interests.
Oh, I thought that would come. No. I ran for president like you. I got millions and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives, not one nickel of PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. They came from workers.
In 2020, you were the single largest
because I had
pharmaceutical
contributions from workers all over this country. Workers,
you were
not a nickel from corporate PACs.
You were the single largest acceptor of pharmaceutical dollars.
No, from workers in
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of 200 million. All right, but you have not answered. Last question.
All right, so that was RFK. And I pointed out in the last video how much money the Democrats get from Big Pharma. They've become the corporate party. They also get a lot of money. By the way, we're finding out that we're getting the numbers back on what they were stealing from Ukraine. And it's big numbers, man. I mean, Biden, I think he got $82 million in taxpayer money from Ukraine. And it went down the list. I mean, so the Democrats, I told you that Ukraine was a money laundering scheme to fund the Democrat Party, and now we're getting the numbers, and it's huge. That is one corrupt party, man. Oh my God. I was like, holy shit. I can't believe these numbers. So now we got to get into some clips of Tulsi Gabbard. And these were fantastic, but I wanted to talk about it because they kept trying to pin her to Edward Snowden. Now, Tom Massey came out and he did a petition, and 94% of the people think that, that answered the survey, I didn't look at how many was in the survey, said that Snowden was a hero. I believe Snowden was a hero. And for them to sit there and grill her on Edward Snowden, and we're going to read that post. I'm going to do a reading here in just a few when I get to the halfway point of the hike. And because Snowden, he basically came out and said, look, man, if you got to torch me to get into the cabinet of Trump, to talking to Tulsi, go ahead and do it. You know, if you got to call me a traitor, call me a traitor. I don't care. You know, and why should he? I mean, he's got a great life over in Russia right now. So, but she wouldn't do it. I give her my hats off. It might cost her the approval, but like I said, she can be recessed appointed for a year. So if she doesn't get passed, I mean, it just reflects on all especially the Rhino senators that vote against her, because she was just fantastic. Let's watch a couple of clips of Tulsi just torching them. And I want to talk about maybe this video, but I don't think I'm going to have time. I got too many things to talk about. But I want to do, I'm going to do a big reading from my book in a separate video. Probably not today, maybe tomorrow. Because, usually I can only hike every other day. And we're going to talk about Edward Snowden. I want to do a deep dive into Edward Snowden. I don't think a lot of Americans know how much he risked and how much information he revealed that was important to us for our privacy. Showed John Clapper to be a traitor, when he lied before Congress and never faced any, because he said, oh, no, we're not spying on anything. Then the Snowden files dropped. That was fantastic. And by the way, I should hate Snowden. He cost me 3 years writing my book, because I had to go back and completely rewrite my book, The Internet is Infected, after Snowden revealed what he did, because I was like, oh, damn, now I can talk about this, now I can talk about that, because I didn't want to go to jail. And I wasn't willing to move to Russia like he did. So, call me a coward if you want. But anyway, we'll do a deep dive on Edward Snowden. But let's get a few, we'll do 3 Tulsi clips right here. Let's do that.
All members of this committee were offered the opportunity for individual meetings with Tulsi. And if you chose not to meet with her, it's on you. I've done my homework, and here are the facts. Tulsi Gabbard's historic life began at birth. She's the first American Samoan-born member of Congress, period. She graduated from Hawaii Pacific University with a degree in business administration with a concentration in international business. In 2002, at age 21, Tulsi became the youngest woman in America ever elected as a state representative. That was not enough. In 2003, she joined the Hawaii National Guard. When deployed, in her re-election, her opponent raised the issue, could you serve the people that elected you if, in fact, you were deployed? What did Tulsi do? She withdrew from her re-election campaign in order to continue to serve our country in the war on terror. This would not be the first or the last time Tulsi put her country above her career. After multiple deployments and serving in the Hawaii City Council, she was elected to the United States House of Representatives, where she served 4 terms. Throughout her political career, she maintained her military service either in the National Guard or the Army Reserve. Media stories and anonymous rumors have questioned her qualifications, her patriotism, and whether she can be trusted, just to name a few. I refuse to question the qualifications of a woman who's worn the uniform of her nation for 22 years and never taken it off. No fewer than 5 times has the Department of Defense reviewed her security clearance and extended it. Every single time. If Tulsi's guilty of anything, it's that since she was born, her views, opinions, and beliefs have evolved to reflect her life's experiences. Winston Churchill once said, "Those that never change their minds never change anything." She served her city, her state, her country, while winning the support of the people she represented. She's fought in war, and yes, she's tried to stop wars. At the ripe age of 43, Tulsi has the life experiences that match or exceed most members of Congress. Tulsi was serving in uniform 3 years before some of us here today voted to create the Director of National Intelligence. Chairman Cotton, Vice Chairman Warner, members of the committee, it's my honor to support and to introduce to the committee Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel Gabbard, when Russia was denying us use of chemical weapons, they accused the U.S. of supporting terrorists. This is a line that Putin used frequently during the Syrian civil war as he supported Assad. Syrian officials made similar comments. They did it repeatedly. They did it in public. They did it at the United Nations. In 2016, you gave an interview in which you said, and this is a quote, "The U.S. is providing direct and indirect support to terrorist groups in order to overthrow the Syrian government." And in 2019, on the Democratic presidential debate stage, you said of President Trump, this is a quote, "This current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after al-Qaeda, our president is supporting al-Qaeda." So I'm interested to hear, what was your goal in saying these things? And did you consider, before saying them, the motives of Iran and Russia, what their motives might have been before making these claims?
Senator, as someone who enlisted in the military specifically because of al-Qaeda's terrorist attack on 9/11 and committing myself and my life to doing what I could to defeat these terrorists, it was shocking and a betrayal to me and every person who was killed on 9/11, their families and my brothers and sisters in uniform. When, as a member of Congress, I learned about President Obama's dual programs that he had begun really to overthrow the regime of Syria, and being willing to, through the CIA's Timber Sycamore program that has now been made public, of working with and arming and equipping al-Qaeda in an effort to overthrow that regime, starting yet another regime change war in the Middle East. DoD train and equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at, and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria, all to move forward with their regime change and not acknowledging what was obvious at the time and what has unfortunately borne true, which was that a regime change war in Syria, much like the regime change wars in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi and Mubarak, while these are all dictators, would likely result in the rise of Islamist extremists like al-Qaeda taking power. I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
I understand.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't be.
Certainly
and
not in our
I appreciate your answer, and thank you. My concern has to do with the tendency to repeat Russian and Syrian, and even in some cases, I think we'll get into in the closed session, Iranian information, and to discount what comes from our intelligence community.
Senator, every American deserves to know that people in our own government were providing support to our sworn enemy, al-Qaeda. That should not be acceptable by anyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was Tulsi Gabbard. And then, of course, I've got some clips on Kash Patel. And my favorite scene, I don't know if I've got the clip or not, I probably do, was when Chuck Schumer was telling him, see, this would have been a trap, for example, that I would have fallen in. And he says, look at the Capitol Police behind you. Look at the Capitol Police behind you. Turn around and look at them. They defended the Capitol on January 6th. I want you to apologize to them, Turn around and look at them. And it just went on and on. And Kash Patel goes, look, I've done nothing but support police. And, for you to, I'll let you watch the exchange. I'm sure I can find the clip. But if not that clip, we'll get some other clips of Kash Patel. Let's go ahead and watch a couple of those now.
You're being considered for director of the FBI. And here you did no diligence to find out whether people you were associating with now the President of the United States in song were convicted of attacking police officers. Is that who we want running the FBI? I want you to turn around. There are Capitol Police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. Turn around.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them. I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie, and you know it. I've never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women, as you know, my entire life.
It in song,
and I did not make a single dime out of it.
In song. Well, let me.
How about you ask them if I have their backs, and let's see about that answer.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Patel. Let me ask you this. If an FBI director promoted a song of people who sprayed pepper spray in the face of an FBI agent, would you say they were fit to be director?
Mr. Schiff?
Yes or no? Would they be fit to be director?
I am fit to be the director of the FBI.
If you were the FBI director and you promoted a song with someone who beat an FBI agent with a pole, would you say you were fit to be FBI director?
Mr. Schiff, I am fit to be FBI director based on my 16 years of government service.
And yet you did all these things, Mr. Patel. You can say, oh, I support law enforcement. I decry violence against law enforcement. You can say all that. It's what you did, Mr. Patel, that matters. It's what you did that matters. Well, let me ask you about something else that you did, Mr. Patel. Did you claim that Donald Trump declassified all the documents at Mar-a-Lago. Did you claim that?
In what proceeding?
To the public, ever. Did you tell anyone that Donald Trump declassified all the documents at Mar-a-Lago?
From publicly available information, President Trump issued a declassification order on a variety of materials.
No, I'm just asking you, did you tell the public, did you tell anyone, did you make the claim that Donald Trump had declassified those hundreds of classified documents that were at Mar-a-Lago? Did you make that claim
From
publicly?
my best of my recollection, I said President Trump issued a declassification order to a large number of documents.
Yeah, and were you present when he declassified all the Mar-a-Lago documents?
Senator, I'm not saying he declassified all the Mar-a-Lago documents. I said President Trump declassified a large number of documents, and I would hope this committee and the rest of Congress would want to get those documents to the American people.
Mr. Patel, before a president or anyone declassified documents, wouldn't you want to know whether making the public would cause sources to be killed? Wouldn't you want to know that before you just declare they're all declassified? Wouldn't that be the responsible thing for a president to do?
It was the responsible thing for us to do. That's why we declassified the Nunes memo.
And did Donald Trump declassify?
And no one died.
And did Donald Trump ever ask any of the agencies who produced those documents whether declassifying them would put people's lives at risk? Did he ever do that to your knowledge, Kash Patel?
I don't know that he didn't. Do you?
No, that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem, isn't it? So let me just ask, Mr. Chairman, if you would, Mr. Patel has said he has no problem. He would support the release of his grand jury testimony in that case. I would ask you, Mr. Chairman, ranking member, to join me in requesting, with Mr. Patel's approval, the release of those grand jury transcripts. And I would also ask Mr. Patel whether you support the release of Volume 2 as it pertains to you of the special counsel's report. Any reference to you in the report, to your truthfulness, will you support the release to this committee of those sections of Volume 2 of special counsel's report?
I support following the law and providing whatever information the law requires.
Well, you said to the Wall Street Journal that you support transparency. Here's your chance, Mr. Patel. Do you support release of that to this committee? Yes or no?
Your time's up.
Okay, so that was Kash Patel. So I guess we're just going to have to wait for the reading, because I keep saying I'm going to do it. I want to get into all of Trump's accomplishments and the negatives. Like I told you, he passed an anti-Semite executive order. Well, why not anti-Christian? Why not anti-Muslim? So it's the Israeli lobby is so powerful on Capitol Hill. I don't want a bill that protects anybody. Free speech is free speech, man. Okay? You can't, remember when they were talking about hate speech? Well, how do you define hate speech? You going to call me a white honky bastard? Okay, is that hate speech? No, I'd just say, well, you know what? I think a better name for me is asshole. Call me asshole. White honky bastard works too. I think so. I think that'll work. That's free speech. All right? You want to call somebody the N-word? Blacks call each other that all the time. It's just not very appropriate for a white person to say that word. It's an offensive term. Or, something I do take offense to when you call me a white racist. You're white, therefore you're a racist. Well, I kind of gotten over that because I just look at them and go like, because I'm white, I'm a racist, right? And they say, yeah, you're a racist. Okay, I guess my toaster is too. My toaster must be racist because my toaster's white. It's not, but I mean, or I got a white fridge. I got a white fridge, so that must be a racist refrigerator, right? So that there are things that, if you want to call that hate speech, but it's still free speech. I don't care if you call me a racist. I mean, I do. It pisses me off, but I'm not gonna pull out a gun and shoot you for it. I'm just gonna say, okay, fine, whatever. In Britain, they'll call up the police and come arrest the person. Oh, he called him a Muslim. A sad nigger. Called him a sad nigger. Put him in jail. Put him in jail. And then they go to jail. I mean, because that's considered hate speech. Oh my God. So anyway. And plus, you never know in the heat of the moment. Man, when I drop a hammer on my toe, or if something comes up, I mean, I'll drop F-bombs. I mean, you want to talk about F-bombs, I'll be just like, oh, F this, F that, F that, oh, F, 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 F. You know, well, somebody nearby, which actually, it did happen to me. When I was at JP Morgan Chase, I was down in the data center, I can't remember, and I was dropping some F-bombs for some reason, and one of the employees went up and reported me to the president, and so the next thing I know, I'm getting called into his office, and he said, Kirk, one of your coworkers took offense to your language that you've been using down on the data floor. And so I've got to write you up for that. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. You know, I've been written up for a lot of stuff. I remember when I worked in Washington, D.C., I got written up for not wearing a tie. Now, I kept the tie in my drawer. And we worked in a separate building from Cruise Missile Project. I'm just giving you the quick story. And so when I had to go over to the customer, which I had to quite often, I would put the tie on, go over to the government offices. Most of the government employees didn't have ties on, but we wanted to look professional. Well, anyway, when I'm sitting at my desk programming, I was a programmer back then, I wasn't an administrator. That was later in my career. I'd take the tie off and just sit there, because nobody's in the office. I mean, occasionally we get somebody from Cruise Missile who might drop by. Most of the time they didn't even come in, because my office was separate, because I had, it was me and a couple other people in there, programmers. They didn't come in there to talk to us. They would go into the president's office or my manager's office, and that's usually who they wanted to talk to, because we were just peons, right? We're peons. That's what you are. If you're a programmer, you're a peon. Nobody wants to talk to you. But anyway, so there's no reason for me. Man, I got written up for not wearing a tie. I know I went on to a little bit too long about that, but I just thought that was a cute story. So okay, we're gonna get into the reading. If I think of something else where I can walk and talk, we'll get into that too. I just, with all the clips that we're going to be adding in, this video is going to get pretty long. And that's why I said I can't do the reading about Snowden. But just understand he was a hero. And for them to sit there and just try to, because they kept trying, that's where they were trying to get Tulsi. They wanted her to call him a traitor and all this other crap, because I can't remember. And then, of course, they were hitting her on Syria. And by the way, I mean, think about this. There was, if you didn't know, back during the Obama administration, because Obama wanted to go to war with Syria. And he did bomb them, okay? But there was supposedly a chemical attack that Assad did on his own people. Now, a lot of people have pointed out, okay, in the beginning of the war, I mean, because it was a civil war, basically, was taking place, Assad was losing. His side was losing, man. It looked like the rebels were going to take over the capital, and he never used chemical weapons. So then the Syrian army turned things around, and so by the time the accusation came out about the chemical attack, they were winning. They were winning big time. And so basically the rebels were trying to get, and this is the speculation, they were trying to get the Americans involved so that they could turn the tide because they were losing. And so they staged a false flag and a chemical attack. So Tulsi Gabbard, her spidey sense went up, and or her radar, and she said, and she was trying to keep the United States from another false flag, like, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Yeah, my ass. 81 million votes, my ass, for Biden in 2020. But anyway, so she went over there because there was conflicting information coming out, and she wanted to form her own analysis of the situation, and that's all it was, because she was trying to keep us out of the war, and she did. And she did. She was able to prove. Of course, then they went on about, well, when you watch the Tulsi clips, maybe you saw the part where they're going on about this, the guy was talking about RT, that the guy that proved that it wasn't a chemical attack, he actually did an interview on RT because CBS, ABC, all the legacy media wouldn't bring him in so that he could get the message out. So he went to an alternate news source, which back then RT was still free speech in the United States. So anyway, that was just the whole story. So thank God she went. She saved American lives. And yet they're sitting there going to accuse her of being an Assad puppet. Oh yeah, you're an Assad puppet. You're a Putin puppet. She's been accused of being a Putin puppet. oh, you're a Putin puppet because she's against the war in Ukraine. She came out against FISA. Really, you don't understand what FISA is? That means that all they got to do is go in and it gets rubber stamped, and they say, we want to spy on all these people, and we can't get a warrant. Would you just give us this FISA? It's called a FISA warrant. It's really not a warrant. It's just an approval of, okay, so now, you and I, we have no privacy whatsoever. They go out and they gather all the information on us. I understand NSA collects everything you do on the internet. And we've talked about this many times in my videos. You have no privacy. If you're worried about your social security number, everybody in the universe has it. There's no privacy, and oh, by the way, that was another story. Good thing I kept talking. Was Elon, I guess, or Doge, they locked a lot of the federal employees out of their computers. Now, when I say locked out, they still have access to email and stuff like that. It's just they can't access the big databases to get your information or financial information or make financial transactions and stuff like that. So they've been locked out. I don't know how many it was. It was a big story on X. And of course, that 51, oh, that's another story. This is great. So the 51 people that said Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian, had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. And then, of course, John Brennan, that's one evil son of a bitch right there. They not only did they lose their security clearances, but now they've locked him out of the federal buildings. That grift has come to an end, man, because you got to understand, they depend on those security clearances and their access to federal employees or federal managers that they knew, from when they were in there. And that's why the corporations and the lobbyists pay them a ton of money, because they do have that access. Well, that access has been cut off. So that means all this grifting that was going on with people paying them for influence peddling has come to an end. So, I mean, they're going to be fine. They're all wealthy beyond belief. But it's just a happy moment for me to see the grift ended right there. All right, so let's get to the reading. That'll be the next clip on the video. I got about another 20 minutes to get there. All right, we'll get there in a sec. I don't know if I got him on the video. It's hard to tell, but we're going to get closer, and then I'll zoom out. I think is that an owl or a hawk? Can you see it? Right there. Up on the limb. Let's get closer. I'm going to zoom out so that I can try. Oh, there he goes. There he goes. There he goes. So you see him? You see him? All right, that was cool, wasn't it? Let me talk about some posts that I'm seeing. Yeah, I don't know how Twitter's algorithms do the feed, but I have been getting some people up into my feed. Because remember, Tulsi was a Democrat. So was JFK. Okay, and they joined Trump, JFK to make America healthy again, and Tulsi to provide him with unbiased information, which she's going to be very good at. We've got to have her in that position. If it's a recess appointment, so be it. But anyway, people popping up in my feed say, and I think these are more independents because, like I said, the Democrats are the Borg. They're going to vote Democrat. I mean, you could kick a Democrat in the teeth and they'd still vote Democrat. But these people, I think they're more independent, and they're popping up saying, I've watched some of the testimony and it made me sick. I voted Democrat most of my life, and now I'm going to vote Republican. And so I've been seeing that a little bit. So maybe there's hope. Just checking the mic, because too many times I don't get anything. God damn it. Popped all the way back to the beginning. It's one thing I maybe someday they'll fix in X. I already showed you the Bernie Sanders. Let's see. Yeah, let's keep going. This was a piece of news. The Tennessee state legislature just voted to pass a universal school choice bill after President Trump's endorsement. And I'm showing you the endorsement up above. I won't read the whole thing, but you can see this is what Trump had to say about it. Now, from what I understand, it was only like 20 schools, so it's just a start. But anytime you've got school choice, I think it's a good thing. I don't know why the Democrats are against school choice, other than they're in the pocket of the teachers' unions, which hopefully we're going to do away with the Department of Education. So I wanted to read you what Edward Snowden had said in his own words. The Senate Intel Committee spent nearly the entirety of its session today furiously demanding that DNI nominee Gabbard condemn me personally, a position now opposed by something like 94% of Americans. I told you about that survey earlier. Courts have been ruling for 10 years that the NSA broke the law. Guys, move on. And then, of course, it's got Thomas Massey's survey. Maybe I'll show you that up above. Let's see how many people does it say. Oh, yeah, here's the numbers. 82,325 votes. Pretty good cross-section of the United States, although the people that follow Massey aren't Democrats. Imagine it's mostly, so it's a somewhat biased survey, but at least that's a lot of votes to get in there. And then, of course, this is Glenn Greenwald. The reason these bipartisan deep state loyalists on the committee are demanding she call Snowden a traitor, even though he's not charged with treason, is he exposed the illegal domestic spying programs they all endorsed. He served his country and betrayed criminals. And then, of course, there's a graphic here of Edward Snowden. And then I want to read another post by Edward Snowden. When a crooked politician calls me a traitor, ask yourself, who did I betray? The courts have ruled repeatedly that the programs I revealed were unlawful and likely unconstitutional, which is most definitely the truth, a violation of your rights. If this is treason, what they call loyalty is a crime. So anyway, I thought that was a good way to put it. This was Senator Kennedy. This is a good video. I didn't put this. This is Kash Patel. Senator Kennedy destroys the Democrats during Kash Patel's hearing. Let's watch that video now.
If you're not ticking off some people, you're not doing your job right.
My colleague and friend Senator Durbin called you a conspiracy theorist. You remember that?
I do, Senator.
You were instrumental in revealing that the Trump-Russia election collusion hoax was a hoax, weren't you?
Yes, sir. I was a lead investigator.
Sounds to me like we need to get some new conspiracy theories because all the old ones turned out to be true.
Facts matter, Senator.
Yeah. I mean, conspiracy theorists are up something like 37-0.
Okay, so I told you this was going to get a little long. But anyway, let's just keep going. So this is Marsha Blackburn. By the way, she's kind of a mixed bag, but most of the time I agree with her on most everything. Let's pop in here. Marsha Blackburn just gloriously called out the Democrats who fear Kash Patel's confirmation. The Epstein Client List is coming. Well, let's hope so, but I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be redacted. One of my favorite shows, by the way. I watch Redacted just about every day. Why are the Democrats so afraid of you, Blackburn? Patel, I don't know, Senator. You'd have to ask them. Blackburn, I want to talk to you about the Epstein case. I have worked on this for years. Of course, I can't do a woman's accent. Trying to get those records of who flew on Epstein's plane and who helped him build his international human trafficking, sex trafficking ring. Now, earlier I urged the Chairman Durbin to subpoena those records, and I ended up being blocked by Senator Durbin and Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray's gone now. Woohoo! Progress, right? That was one corrupt son of a bitch. I'm going to tell you what, man. Boy, did he bury the FBI. I still obviously don't trust. Don't trust the FBI. If they ask you a question, say, I want my lawyer. Ask you a question, I want my lawyer. That's all. That's the only response to the FBI, okay? Until Kash Patel can get in there. And by the way, everybody's bitching at Trump. You know, when are you going to talk to Putin? When are you going to do this? He's only been in office 12 days, man. He's done more in 12 days than Biden did in 4 freaking years. All right? Calm down, man. He's going to get to these things. He's got a lot on his plate right now. The Democrats totally destroyed the United States intentionally. They brought in 30 million illegal aliens. Okay? They practically bankrupted the country. They were spending $10,000 a month on 30 million. You do the math. 10,000 times 30 million. They spent billions. They gave Ukraine $250 billion of your taxpayer money, man, and then laundered it back to themselves. It's a hell of a mess, man. The country is a hell of a mess, and it's going to take a lot of time to straighten all this out. And we're more than likely going to bankrupt. I don't think there's any way in hell you can wrap your hands around a $37 trillion deficit. We're paying more interest on the freaking national debt than we pay for our military industrial complex. So get off Trump's back. He's working as fast as he can. They stonewalled on this. I know that breaking up these trafficking rings is important to President Trump. So will you work with me on this issue so we can know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in the building, the sex trafficking rings? It was Democrats, man. They're pedophiles. They're pedophiles. You know, but it was Democrats. Patel, absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America. And I will do everything, if confirmed, as FBI director to make sure the American people know the full weight of what happened in the past. Let's watch that video. I wanted to read it to you because I thought this was very, very important.
Their questions, and it has led me to one thing. Why are the Democrats so afraid of you?
I don't know, Senator. You'd have to ask them.
Well, I tell you what I think, and listening to their questions and your responses, which we appreciate, they know that you're going to go in and you're going to clean up that political cabal that has been over there for years. You are going to reposition the FBI to its core mission. You stated that earlier in this hearing, and there will be no more political persecutions and no more two tiers of justice. And they have liked having two tiers of justice. They have enjoyed it, and it has helped them. They think in their political mission, they've enjoyed targeting Catholics. They've enjoyed targeting parents. But the American people have said they want no more of that. And our colleagues know you're going to clean it up. I want to talk to you about the Epstein case. I have worked on this for years, trying to get those records of who flew on Epstein's plane and who helped him build this international human trafficking, sex trafficking ring. Now, earlier I urged then Chairman Durbin to subpoena those records, and I ended up being blocked by Senator Durbin and Christopher Wray. They stonewalled on this, and I know that breaking up these trafficking rings is important to President Trump. So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past.
Let's watch it. All right, there you go. So there was that video. All right, so there it goes again. Pop back to the beginning. All right, hold on. Let me get back to where I was. Let's see. Okay. There we go. This was Benny Johnson. Breaking, at least 5 top FBI officials who were promoted by former failed Director Christopher Wray are facing demotion or reassignment. So that's good. So they're cleaning up. They're cleaning house. I mean, you got to remember, Trump's first term, he came in, everybody was against him. Hell, a lot of people like Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck ranted and raved against Trump when he first got in 2017. Glenn Beck hated Donald Trump. So if you're a Glenn Beck fan, why don't you ask Glenn Beck? Well, he's come around. This is always good, okay? You know, some people maybe came around on the jab, and they're admitting that they made a mistake now, right? I mean, so if you're willing to come around, that's probably more important than where you were in the past. I was a juvenile delinquent, should be in jail, probably 100 times over. But, you know, I got through it. All right, so this is, this is Rand Paul. Oh, yeah. I won't put the text up. It says, watch Rand Paul goes off on hysterical big pharma captured confirmation committee while defending RFK Jr. This is Rand Paul.
If you ask me my opinion, there were reporters run up and down the hall and they say, you still anti-vaccine? No, I'm pro-vaccine. But on the COVID vaccine, And on the COVID illness, there was a 1,000-fold or more difference between the elderly and children. If you don't acknowledge that, you're committing malpractice. You're showing your ignorance. If you say a 6-month-old must be mandated to get it, the science is not there. So all this blather about the science says this and the science says that, no, it doesn't. The science actually shows that no healthy child in America died from COVID. Senator Paul. You know, I think the discussion over vaccines is so oversimplified and dumbed down that we never really get to real truths, and it's why people up here are so separated from real people at home. So we talk about hepatitis B. It's a terrible disease. It could lead to liver failure, as the chairman said. But the reason you have distrust from people at home, why they don't believe anything you say, and they don't believe government at all, is you're telling my kid to take a hepatitis B vaccine when he's 1 day old. You get it through drug use and sexually transmitted. That's how you get hepatitis B. But you're telling me my kid has to take it at 1 day old. That's not science. And so every person with a bit of common sense, even people who don't resist vaccines, I vaccinated all my kids. I believe vaccines are one of the modern miracles beyond all pale. The Speckled Monster is a great book about the introduction of the smallpox vaccine in 1720 into our country. All miracles. But I'm not a one-size-fits-all. It's not all or nothing. I chose to wait on my hepatitis B vaccine, and we did it when they went to school. Does that make me an awful person? Does that make me an anti-vaxxer because I questioned the government dictate of whether I do it? And I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm only speaking for myself. But for goodness sakes, let's have an honest debate about these things. The COVID vaccine. If you ask me my opinion, there were reporters run up and down the aisle and they say, you still anti-vaccine? No, I'm pro-vaccine. But on the COVID vaccine and on the COVID illness, there was a 1,000-fold or more difference between the elderly and children. If you don't acknowledge that, you're committing malpractice. You're showing your ignorance. If you say a 6-month-old must be mandated to get it, the science is not there. So all this blather about the science says this and the science says that, no, it doesn't. The science actually shows that no healthy child in America died from COVID. Look it up. No healthy child died from COVID. And so the thing is that it's 1,000-fold greater. So if you ask me my advice as a physician, if you were 65 or older or overweight and some other conditions, I would have said, hell yes, I'd take the COVID vaccine. The risks of the disease were real and much greater than the vaccine. But if you ask me, should my healthy 6-month-old get it? See, these are the nuances you're unwilling to talk about because there's such a belief in submission. Submit to the government. Do what you're told. There is no discussion. There ought to be a debate. You're not going to let him have the debate because you're just going to criticize and say, it is this and admit to it or we're not going to appoint you. But it's more complicated than that. And this is why people distrust government, because you're unwilling to have these conversations. And go home, ask your Democrat young mothers, your Republican young mothers, if they're vaccinating their kid for hepatitis B and they're like, well, do I have to do it on day one? It's this precious little baby. Is there science to say you shouldn't do it? Probably not, but it's my kid. You know, it's like, there isn't clear-cut science saying not to. But on autism, there's no good science of anything to show what causes autism. We don't know. It's a profound disease. I know many moms here and dads who have kids with autism. I know them personally. I've met their kids. But the thing is they saw their kids developing completely normal, maybe speaking 100 words go to no words at about 15 months of age. Now, there isn't proof. There isn't proof that the vaccines cause it. That's true. There isn't proof that it causes it. But we don't know what causes it yet, so shouldn't we be at least open-minded? We take 72 vaccines. Could it be? I don't know. But we shouldn't just close the door and say we're no longer, because we believe so much in submission, we're not going to have an open mind to study these things. And so it's sort of this crazy notion. Schizophrenia, I would put in the same notion. You have a kid who's completely normal to 18 or 19, and their brain goes haywire. How does that happen? It's the most bizarre disease. Shouldn't we be open? Could it be our food? It might be vaccines, it might be our food, but autism is more common. I don't know about the schizophrenia statistics, but autism is more common. Shouldn't we want to be open-minded? Instead, we're so close-minded and we're so consensus-driven that the science says this. Well, science doesn't say anything. Science is a dispute, and 10 years from now, we could all be wrong. We were told in the beginning, 20 years ago, they did this enormous study, and they said, everybody over 50 should take an aspirin. I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. It makes sense. But you know what? 20 years later, they measured it, and they found if you had no heart disease and you were taking aspirin, your chance of dying from a brain bleed or from a stomach bleed were greater than the risk of heart disease. If you have heart disease, they still say take an aspirin. If you don't, they've changed their mind 20 years later. But would you have all said I was crazy and I should no longer be in public discourse if I had said 20 years ago, I don't feel like taking an aspirin. I ride my bike all the time. I'm afraid I might hit my head. But that's what a country's about. It's what dissent is about. So just ask you to look at the larger picture and give the guy a break who says, I just want to follow the science where it leads without presupposition. I think really what we have up here is presupposition. You've already concluded. It's absolute that autism isn't caused by it. We don't know what causes autism, so we should be more humble in what we say. Sorry I didn't get to a question.
All right, that was awesome, wasn't it? So here's another, this was Senator Kennedy and Kash. It's another video, same thing. You've already seen that. And then Kash Patel tells senators he's uniquely qualified to lead the FBI. Let's watch that video.
Senator, this may be one of the scenarios that most uniquely qualifies me to take command at the FBI. Having been the victim of government overreach and a weaponized system of justice and law enforcement, I know what it feels like to have the full weight of the United States government barreling down on you. And as the Biden Inspector General determined, those activities by the FBI and DOJ were wholly improper and not predicated upon law and facts. I will ensure, if confirmed, that no American is subjected to that kind of torment, to that kind of cost, financially and personally. And most importantly, I will make sure that no American is subjected to death threats like I was, and subjected to moving their residences like I was, because of government overreach, because of leaks of information about my personal status. If confirmed as FBI director, Mr. Chairman, you have my commitment that no one in this country will feel that pain.
All right, so that was cool. And then, of course, this is Ted Cruz asked Kash Patel whether Nancy Pelosi refused the National Guard assistance on January 6th. It's coming out. It's coming out. It was all a setup. I told you it was a setup. I said this back when Parler was going down. My last post on Parler, I'll probably never get it back, was this was a setup. January 6th was a setup. The Democrats set it up. Anyway, let's watch that video.
What were you doing on that day?
On that day specifically, responding to preparing to mobilize and deploy the National Guard once we got the lawful request from the local governing authority, which was the mayor of D.C. and the Speaker of the House.
Now, how many days in advance were you working to prepare the Department of Defense to help secure the Capitol on January 6th?
Days in advance, Senator. We were in the Oval Office on an unrelated national security matter with the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and myself. And the President authorized up to 20,000 plus National Guardsmen and women to secure any security measures necessary related to the Capitol. So we were moving to the fullest extent of the law before the requisite request came from a local governing authority days ahead of time.
And while you were Chief of Staff at DOD, how many times did DOD approach Capitol Police and ask if they needed National Guard assistance?
I believe those letters are well documented, numerous instances, and numerous of those instances, those requests were shut down.
Now, am I correct that the Capitol Sergeant at Arms said assistance was unnecessary?
That's correct, Senator.
Who did the Sergeant at Arms report to?
The Speaker of the House.
That would have been Nancy Pelosi at the time. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
And would that also be Chuck Schumer, then the Senate Majority Leader?
The Sergeant at Arms, yes, Senator, reports up there.
Did Mayor Bowser, the Democrat elected mayor in D.C., either request or allow National Guard assistance?
She put in writing on the days leading up to January 6th, a declination for National Guard additional support. And that letter is available publicly to the world.
So, and just to speak English for folks at home, a declination meant she said no, don't send National Guard. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a simple question, because from the questioning from my Democrat colleagues, they might think otherwise. Do you condemn violence against law enforcement?
All of it.
And it says those that oppose my nomination are accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, which truly unsettles them if I refuse to be their puppet. I thought it was a brilliant statement, right? So anyway, let's watch that video.
Before I close, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country. Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet.
All right, like I said, just getting long. Sorry about that. And then we already did that one. Let's see if there's anything else here. I'll just read this to you. I'm not going to put the text up. It says, after watching RFK Jr. hearing today, it's abundantly clear to me that I could never vote for a Democrat for the rest of my life. This is Bridget Gamble. Bridget Gabriel. This is what I was telling. So I don't know whether she voted Democrat in the past. It sounds like she did, right? But so she was more of an independent. But I mean, some of the people say that they've been voting Democrat their whole life and they're not going to vote Democrat. I'm glad I got this example. I could never vote for a Democrat for the rest of my life. These people are completely insane and have no morals. And then this is Tom Homan. I don't know if I show you this video. Trump will destroy the cartels like he did the caliphate. President Trump is going to seal the border and dismantle the cartels. Declared as a terrorist organization, they'll be taken out of the trafficking, smuggling, and dope business. The U.S. government, where's it at, will attack them, not just in Mexico, but in 42 countries where they operate. Now, cartels are heavily armed, man. We're going to lose some. If he really goes into Mexico, which I would love to see him do, that's going to be a hell of a fight. They got anti-tank weapons. I mean, you know, you're taking on an army. The cartels, they're not, you can call them cartels. They are an army, man. And and Biden, the Democrats brought them into the United States. You know what, Democrat? Ask them that question. Why do you want the drug cartels, the violent sex trafficking, pedophile cartels in the United States? A Democrat won't answer that question. All right, that's it. This video got really long. I apologize. Peace out. Stay free. Just a quick scenery video as I'm hiking the fire trail here. And we've seen this before, but isn't that cool? By the way, just wanted to tell you, a buddy of mine tuned me into sweetwater.com. I think that's the name of it. I hope I got it right. If not, I'll put the link up above. And because I'm looking into a gimbal. I told you I was looking into a gimbal, but I just had too many questions. And anyway, they're doing a big research because it looks like the gimbal is not going to work with this the phone case. I got a tandem phone case, and it really thickens up the phone. And these gimbals are made just for the phone to be outside a case. Well, I can't have the phone outside of a protective case. Number one, I dropped the phone because my hands don't work too good all the time. So the phone, you know, $1,000 brick would be a hell of a thing. And then the other thing is I got to protect the phone from the elements. So understand, I'm going to keep stepping up my game on these videos, and I'm trying the best I can. But I wanted to let you know about Sweetwater. I thought they were fantastic, and get you a scenery shot here. Pretty cool.
Here's a longer exchange between another clown, Amy Klobuchar.
Did you say that the FBI headquarters should be shut down and reopened as a museum of the deep state?
Mr. Chairman, are we allowed to go an extra time?
Let's see, you get a second round. Before I call on Senator Lee.
Could he just answer the question if he said that the FBI headquarters, where they investigate cybercrime and terrorism, should be shut down and open as a deep state?
Hey, Mr. Chair.
As a museum. Did he say that the headquarters should be shut down?
Mr. Chair.
I deserve an answer to that question. He is asking to be head of the FBI, and he said that their headquarters should be shut down.
Mr. Chair, parliamentary inquiry.
You got anything you want to say, Mr. Patel, before I go on to Senator Lee?
Simply this. If the best attacks on me are going to be false accusations and grotesque mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women at the FBI. I stood with them here in this country. In every theater of war we have, I was on the ground in service of this nation. And any accusations leveled against me that I would somehow put political bias before the Constitution are grotesquely unfair. And I will have you reminded that I have been endorsed by over 300,000 law enforcement officers to become the next director of the FBI. Let's ask them.
Mr. Chairman, I am quoting his own words from September of 2024. It is his own words. It is not some conspiracy. It is what Mr. Patel actually said himself. Facts matter.
The Democrats are so scared of Kash Patel. I'll give you one 60-second clip, and you'll understand why the Democrats, and some Republicans probably as well, you want to know why they're so scared of Kash Patel? It's not just the things that he says about the deep state or the bureaucratic class. No, he knows exactly what they're up to in Congress as well. Clip 2.
Just look at Nancy Pelosi's insider trading deals. It is insider trading, and she keeps making up hundreds of millions of dollars. So do dozens of other congressmen and women. So they know what's going to happen. They're writing the legislation. They're doing the funding. It's the same thing for the media circuit. These people, not all of them, but for the most part, live and breathe to get on these TV shows. I could care less if I'd ever do media again. In fact, I'd probably be a much happier guy. These guys are begging to get on your show for 3 minutes here and 4 minutes there. They're begging for relevance, and they're looking for any way they can get it.
Do you think I shouldn't have any government officials on?
I think they should just have people who care about questioning them neutrally. Again, not a Republican or Democrat thing. Like if someone goes out there and specifically lies about Russiagate, about impeachment, about insurrection, about the 51 Intel letter, call them out on it. But they keep having him on over and over and over and over again.
He knows about the insider trading. He knows about the fake intel leaks and then how it gets promoted by the mainstream media. He knows how their whole propaganda campaign works, folks. That's why they're scared of him. Now, whether he can or will dismantle it or not is another story. But exposing it for the American people and understanding that, grasping that as the FBI director is already a huge advancement of the issues we've had with FBI leadership.
Say you're pro-vaccine. Just want to ask some questions. And yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on your usefulness.